So, man, today is a jam-packed show. We have so much to discuss today on the docket. Washington Commanders. All right. Hashtag take command. Okay. That's a thing now. So we'll talk about the rebrand and all that it entails. Also, Tom Brady officially hangs it up. I can't lie to you. I'm shocked. We'll talk about that. And Brian Flores files a lawsuit against the National Football League claiming racial discrimination. We talked about this on the podcast. We'll talk about it some more. All of that and then some on the Louie T Network podcast that starts now. The Louie T Network is powered by the Card Collector Series. Join me, your man, Louie T, on my journey back into the card collecting space with the Card Collector Series on YouTube. Link is in the description. Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to the 235th installment of the Louie T Network podcast. I, of course, am your set man, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. As I mentioned at the top of the show, jam-packed today. So much to get to. Also, you guys are going to take over the show as we get to social media maneuvers a little bit later on in the show. And I know you guys are going to probably have plenty to say on all of the happenings over the last 48 hours or so, roughly. So let's discuss the first topic that grabbed headlines today. And this is something that we've known about for quite some time. And that's the Washington football team, or now the Washington Commanders, and their new rebrand and what they look like and all of that entails. Let's get to that right now as we start our show with the gem dropping session. Let me drop this gem on your melon. Open your mind, let your conscience be free. You're now rolling with your man, Louie T double E. Let me open you up. Get you thinking a little bit. So, the Washington Commanders. What are your thoughts on the name? How do you feel about the name? I told you the name doesn't move the needle for me, and it wasn't going to be a big deal. Man, I've been adamant about that since the start of this process. And I'm going to continue to hammer that point home. I was more interested in what we would look like. What are the jerseys going to look like? What's the logo going to look like? What does the logo look like on the helmet? What does it look like on a hat? Things of that nature. And we got our answer today. So the revealing of the name was so anticlimactic. Okay, we already knew what the name of the team was going to be. I think that really intensified over the last 2 weeks, where the breadcrumbs were starting to be dropped, and Washington was starting to unravel in their ability to keep, sources from leaking information or people from just gathering information that they allowed to slip through the cracks. So really, the cat was out of the bag as far as what the name was going to be. There were all the signs there, and we knew what this was. There was no deception here. It was Commanders. But what they did do a good enough job of was keeping us in the dark of what the jerseys would look like, because we've had before where teams were going to have a brand new jersey and someone working inside of the team facility takes a picture of the jerseys, puts it on socials, and all of a sudden it's circulating before the team actually releases the official picture of the uniforms, post, whatever. So they didn't have that happen, which I'm shocked, honestly. So, that was the whole reveal this morning, was really truly about what we would look like and what the color scheme and colorways would be. And lo and behold, we have a all white uniform. We have an all burgundy uniform. We have an all black uniform, each looking different in their own unique way. As a matter of fact, let's see if we can't pull up a picture here. I should be able to pull something up for you guys quickly. Actually, let's see. I think I might be able to. Yeah, I can pull something up for you guys real quick. So let's create a new one, and we will add a new photo in here, and we will pull up the Washington football team. I should have done this prior to, but or the Washington. I got to get used to saying the Washington Commanders. Um, we can take a look at this real quick. So, and you know what? I actually have a better picture. I have a picture that will take up the whole screen, and not that one. Yeah, we could go with that one. Yeah, let's do that one. That's fine. So let's fill up the screen here and take a look at it. All right. So we'll pull this up just a bit to kind of give it a real feel. So as you can see, each jersey is unique in its own right. So the numbers are different on every single jersey, I believe. Obviously, you have, and you know what? We'll pull up the other image as well. So we'll be able to do this and look at it in certain aspects and then look at it in other aspects. So let's do this one first. And let's go ahead and fit that to the screen. And then pull it down. And then what we'll do is so what I want to show you here is Chase Young is wearing the white on white. And you see that one says Washington on it. Then you have Jonathan Allen with the black on black. His says Commanders off to the side on the left shoulder. And then Terry McLaurin is sporting the burgundy on burgundy, which says Commanders across the front breastplate. So each of these jerseys is different. As you can see, the numbers on the McLaurin jersey are slightly different from that of the numbers on the white jerseys, because the white ones have burgundy numbers with black outline. Meanwhile, the black jerseys have yellow numbers with burgundy outline, and then the burgundy jerseys have white outline on the yellow number. So the number is slightly different on each jersey. You see the helmets, and you'll get a better look at the helmets with this view here. So you see the W, the new logo W across the front, and the stripe in the front of the helmet. It's a nice helmet. I like the matte look of the helmet. And you know, there's been a lot of discussion about the black helmet, and rightfully so. So you go back to this photo, and you see Jonathan Allen has a W in the front. It says Commanders on the front of the helmet there in yellow. A lot of people aren't a big fan of the W in the front of the helmet. Neither am I. I thought they could have done something different there. They could have put Commanders across the front there, or they could have done the as they did on the shoulder. As we take a look here, you see they've got the DC flag on the shoulder of the black uniform. They could have put that on the front of the helmet, or at least 3 stars on the front of the helmet, or something different instead of just the W. I think they could have saved the W maybe for the back of the helmet, but that's nor here nor there. Actually saw a photo, and I didn't see this before, but on the back of the uniforms where the names are, the nameplate, they have lines separating the name from the rest of the jersey. That's pretty dope as well. And I think there's actually some more activity on the back of the black helmets, if I'm not mistaken. So there's a lot to digest with the uniforms. I actually like them. I wasn't the biggest fan of the shoulder on the white, as you can see with Chase Young, or the mannequin sporting the white on white Chase Young jersey there, and you get another look at it here. You can't really see it here, but I wasn't the biggest fan of the shoulder. But then when I saw Chase Young, rocking it, in the little video that they put out. It didn't look as bad. It's probably still going to take some getting used to, but all in all, I think they did a pretty good job. I agree with a lot of people that felt like the numbers on the white uniforms, um, I felt like the burgundy could be deeper and darker, and I think the white portion of that should have been yellow or gold. When it starts to fade a bit, that should have been gold, not white. But in any event, I think the uniforms are pretty clean. I think they look good. I like the fact that they're all different and unique in their own way. I love the fact that we have an alternate uniform now, and it's black on black. I think that's pretty dope. And we'll see. There's um, I've heard a ton of jokes in regards to the name already. I've heard everything from obviously the commies. So I've seen some communist memes, with Daniel Snyder being at the forefront of those, and they were actually hilarious. I'm not gonna lie to you, okay? um, then I've seen people say, "Oh, you stole an AAF team's name and their hashtag." So they're talking about the San Antonio Commanders from the AAF back in 2019 when that league was first founded. There were 8 teams. One of those 8 teams was the San Antonio Commanders. Their uniforms and their logo didn't look anything like ours, but they were the Commanders. And look, this is the problem you're going to run into, right? You couldn't come up with a name that was going to be unique to just you. It's going to be hard to do that unless you went like the Red Tails or some kind of, Red Hawks is even taken. There's a Red Hawks in college football, if I'm not mistaken. Like, it was going to be tough to go the brand new unique name route and not step on some toes or have somebody say, "Hey, you just took this team's name." But I didn't realize that the San Antonio Commanders hashtag was "Take Command," which it's a good hashtag. It makes a ton of sense. And I was asking the question amongst the viewers on the show this morning when we were live, and I want to thank everybody who turned out for the rebrand and breakfast this morning. It was outstanding. I enjoyed myself thoroughly, and it was a great time. I asked the congregation this morning, "Hey, is the Take Command thing a thing? Is that a real hashtag, or are they going to go with the HTTC?" I said, in my humble opinion, if you want to leave the past in the past, which is what they're claiming they want to do and start anew, then you need to leave the HTT in the past as well. So I would go with Take Command. They did that, but apparently that was someone else's hashtag. I don't really give a shit. The San Antonio Commanders are now defunct. So did their hashtag. When they left, so did their hashtag. So it's up for grabs, and we snatched it. I don't have a problem with that. And I think we are going to put it to good use. I already think I saw someone use the hashtag, and already the Commanders W shows up when you use it. So we're already in the building as far as that's concerned. So we're going to hear all the jokes. I've heard people talk about the uniforms, and they look this, and they look like a Arena League football team. I've heard people say that the name sounds like a minor league hockey team name. They're not wrong. I think the Commanders is more of a hockey name than a football name. Who gives a shit at this point? I don't really care. I like the uniforms. The name is fine. I don't love the name, but I don't really care. It doesn't move the needle one way or the other for me. The uniforms, I think, are good enough. I have no problems with them other than the pants. I thought they could have done more with the pants. Felt like they kind of got lazy with the pants. But outside of that, felt like they did a pretty good job with everything, all things considered. The rollout was terrible, but the end result was all I really cared about. And I think we finally got resolution. We can now move forward and turn our attention to the Senior Bowl, then free agency, or the combine, then free agency, and then ultimately the draft. So I'll allow you guys to continue to comment about that. If you're out there and you want to have your comment read, use the hashtag LouieTLive to have your comment read on the air if you're new. Also, if you haven't already done so, you know what to do. Hit the subscribe button for more great content. Turn on your notification bell so you don't miss a thing. And also hit the like button as it helps this channel grow exponentially. And if you want to jump to the front of the line, super chats are the way to do that. So let's get to social media maneuvers. And look, we talked so much about the jerseys and the color scheme and all of that stuff earlier today. I don't want to talk about it for 30 minutes here. I don't need to do that. If you want to see that, I have a whole 3.5-hour video, and you can find where in pockets we talk about the uniform once it was released. Probably, I'd say, an hour and 13 minutes in, because at 8:13, that's when they released the name, and the uniforms and the pictures started to flood everyone's timeline. So right around an hour and 15 minutes in on that video, we start talking about the uniform. If you really want to get a good feel for what was said, that's where you can go. But I want to turn my attention now to social media maneuvers. I'm a midday marauder, and get to some of your comments. I want to address something first, and then I will get to the comment section, see if there's anything out there that you guys want to discuss. But I want to spend this time to talk about Brian Flores and the impending lawsuit against the National Football League, and what this means for Brian Flores, what this means for the NFL, and kind of talk more about the subject matter that we've already discussed here. I talked about the plight of the black head coach in the National Football League, and how that's a real thing. And, you get some white people out there that just don't understand what it's like to be a black man in America. And so you get the whole, oh, you're race baiting. No, I've been nice about this. I'm not going to be nice today. So if you're looking for nice Louie T, today's not your day. You might want to tune back in tomorrow or Friday, because on this subject matter, I try to be pretty reserved, but at this point now, I'm going to say how I feel. And on this particular subject matter, when it comes to color and race in America, it's a hot button topic. It's always going to be a hot button topic because it's a real issue that doesn't go away. People want to bury their head in the sand, act as if it doesn't exist, but it does. And in situations like this, you get to see it out in the forefront. And I think Brian Flores is trying to shed some light on the situation, and I commend him for that. He's essentially going Colin Kaepernick on us, because he's going to become a martyr, whether he wants to or not. It's unfortunate because he's a damn good head coach and he deserves another opportunity. I told you how pissed off I was when he got fired. Now to find out some of the ingredients as to what happened in that melting pot in Miami that led to him being dismissed. He was once asked by owner Stephen Ross to lose football games, and that he would pay him an additional $100,000 to tank and lose football games so they could get the highest draft pick possible. Now, I want you to think back to the 2019 season. Let me say this too. Let me get this out of the way, because I strongly feel this way. On this particular topic, when you're talking about black head coaches or anything to do with black people, and you're white or you're of a different color and you can't understand what we go through on a daily basis, you have two options. And if you don't like the options, that's fine. But these are your two options. Either you can listen, because you have no idea. You can't be sympathetic because you're not like me. You don't look like me. You don't go through the things that I go through as a black man living in America. So you can either listen so you can be enlightened and educated, or you can, and that's the nice way of putting it, listen, because that's all we really want, is for people to listen and then take action and take actionable steps to help foster change. For those of you who want to listen and want to be a part of changing things for the better, I commend you, and you're the type of people I want to talk to. For those that want to claim race baiting and don't want to listen, then I tell you, shut the hell up. Those are your two options. You can listen or you can shut the hell up. And that's the unpolitically correct way of me saying, shut the hell up, sit down and take this medicine, okay? Because you have no idea. So when talking about Brian Flores losing games, I want to go back to 2019 for a second, because it all makes sense now. If you're a Washington fan, right? And you remember that season. Remember, Ryan Fitzpatrick comes in the game, and if they put him in a quarter sooner, if they put him in 2 drives sooner, they beat us. But they waited until the very end of that game, put him in, and he scorched us, okay? Brought them all the way back, and they could have kicked the extra point to tie the game, send it to overtime. They would have beaten us. We were dead in the water. We weren't scoring any more points in that game. We were finished. They had us right where they wanted us. Whether we won the toss or not, they were going to win that football game. And they went for 2. And I'll never forget it, because it was one of the worst 2-point conversion plays I've ever seen. It never had a chance. It was dead on arrival. It's almost as if they told us what they were going to run. They did it anyway, and we had 3 guys in the backfield, and we stopped that thing at like the 4-yard line. Remember, a 2-point conversion starts at the 2-yard line, and they got tackled for like a 2-yard loss. We were all over the play, like we knew it coming out of the huddle. Whatever the case may be, it felt like they lost that game on purpose. That's the way I felt after, because at that time, we were so terrible. And the fact that we won, we could care less. We knew we were going to be a horrible team that year. And we finally got one. The one thing I didn't want to do was go 0-16, and that stopped us from the prospects of that happening. But it's in the moment, it felt like, man, they just tanked that game. There's no way they could have run that play. Like, they had anything they wanted. They were killing us down the stretch of that game. Ryan Fitzpatrick is on fire. They could have run anything and they would have gotten a 2-point conversion. And they run that play. It all makes sense now. And you know what's crazy is I think Flores initially was like, look, we stink anyway. We're trading away a lot of our guys to acquire assets. All right, whatever. I'll do it. Then he realized, wait a minute. I'm a black head coach in this league. If I go along with this and we stink and then the outward pressure starts to mount, they're going to get rid of my black ass. So you know what I need to do? I need to win football games. And remember, the Dolphins turned it around that year. And I think they ended up finished something like 7-9. Like, they weren't terrible by the end of that season. And as a matter of fact, they beat the Patriots in week 17 of that season to stop them from getting the number 1 seed. And I think the Chiefs ultimately got the number 1 seed. And the Patriots ended up having to play in the wild card game, and they lost to the Titans, if I'm not mistaken. So I think it might have been the 2 seed. It wasn't the number 1 seed. I think it was the 2 seed the Patriots lost out on, and they didn't get a first round bye. They had to play in the division, the wild card weekend, and they lost to the Titans, and that was the end of Brady in New England. Either way, it all kind of makes sense. You know what I'm saying? And then you hear from Hugh Jackson, who said ownership in Cleveland approached him with the same thing of tanking. And, I've always said that tanking now we're opening Pandora's box. You know what I'm saying? Now we're going down a rabbit hole here. Brian Flores is uncovering a lot of shit, and other guys are keeping their mouth closed. But now that one guy speaks up, everyone else feels comfortable enough to say their truth. And so Hugh Jackson's like, yeah, I was asked by the Browns to lose some football games. And I never wanted to believe, even though I felt like there are some owners out there that firmly believe in tanking. And, tanking sucks, but it only works in a league like the NFL where what the draft status is based off of your record the previous year. So that incentivizes people and teams to want to lose football games if they know they're not any good and they need a franchise quarterback. And there's some, guys that you view as prizes, should you end up with the number 1 overall pick. With that said, that's disrespectful to the game, as Brian Flores put it. That's disrespectful to the game. You got a bunch of guys out there, and that's why I felt like it was just impossible to tank in the NFL. You can do it in the NBA because, look, the best teams usually win, and if you put scrubs on the court, I don't give a shit how hard they play. You put guys that are inferior on the court, they're going to get mopped. In the NFL, guys play hard because jobs aren't guaranteed. In the NBA, you sign a contract, you're guaranteed every single cent of that contract. In the NFL, you have a contract that's on paper, but technically speaking, that contract could be here today, gone tomorrow. So these guys are out there busting their ass. You can't tell them, hey, we want to lose, but what you can do is put them in positions to not succeed, which sucks that coaches have the ability to do that, and ownership is imploring them to do that and incentivizing them to do things like that. But more so with Flores, he wants to bring awareness to the lack of black coaches, black GMs, black offensive and defensive coordinators, which I agree. I think one of the biggest problems in the pipeline of black coaches right now is the lack of coordinators. Because generally speaking, you're not going to see a linebackers coach like Jared Mayo, for instance, who is supposed to be this hot commodity for the Patriots. You're not going to see that happen very often, where a guy that's a linebackers coach all of a sudden rises to the ranks of head coach. It happens every blue moon, but rarely does that happen. Normally, you go through steps, and it's hard to skip steps, but you go from a positional coach to then a coordinator to then being a head man. And I don't think there are enough black offensive and defensive coordinators, and to me, the shame of everything is there are not enough black offensive coordinators. Like, there are a plethora of guys of color as defensive coordinators. Like, are we only good for calling defense? Why can't we have offense? Like, the last black offensive coordinator that I can remember that was consistently employed before he got a head job was Jim Caldwell. Like, we don't have a lot of black. Think about the last time there was a black offensive coordinator. Byron Leftwich is the one guy, and Eric Bieniemy are the two guys, I should say, right now. And Bieniemy can't get a job for whatever reason. There's only one thing I can think of. And so you don't get enough offensive coordinators that are black. That's why I love Uncle Bruce, because Uncle Bruce's entire staff is damn near black. He's like, look, I'm gonna make sure y'all get some damn jobs out here in these streets. I'm gonna employ as many of y'all as possible. I'm gonna put y'all out there, and eventually y'all gonna get work, because I'm gonna make sure y'all get work. And I love it. And there should be more ambassadors, more people looking to hire guys. And again, I think Ron Rivera said it best. It's based off of merit, but you can't tell me there aren't more brothers that deserve opportunities in this league that aren't busting their asses. Okay. I'm seeing all these random ass dudes coming out of nowhere, getting these jobs, and maybe they're interviewing their asses off and saying all the right things that these coaches or owners want to hear and these GMs want to hear. But I'm seeing all these guys come out of the woodworks, getting opportunities to coach at the highest of high levels, like Joe Judge, for instance. Out of nowhere, Joe Judge comes and gets a damn job, yet Eric Bieniemy is still here searching, probing, waiting for his opportunity to be a head coach in this league. I'm looking around at guys that absolutely stink as head coaches, continue to keep their jobs. Meanwhile, Brian Flores and guys like Jim Caldwell get sent packing after 2 winning seasons in a row. These things don't make any sense to me. The Lions haven't had a winning season since they fired Jim Caldwell. I call it the curse of Caldwell. They deserve everything they've gotten. And so the plight of the black head coach is a real thing. Mike Tomlin hasn't had a losing season in 15 years, yet the man, every time the Steelers look like they're on the verge of having a losing season, people want him fired. They can't stand Mike Tomlin. Look, he may not be the best clock operator and game manager. There are things that I know that Mike Tomlin doesn't do at the highest of high levels. But you know what he is? He's a damn good football coach, and he's a great manager of men. Can you imagine having a locker room with Martavis Bryant, Le'Veon Bell, and Antonio Brown, sprinkle in a little Ben Roethlisberger, who can be a diva his damn self, in one goddamn locker room? Can you imagine keeping the peace for 5-6 years at a time with all of those guys in the locker room? Are you kidding me? You want to get rid of this guy who's probably playing babysitter / dad / head coach? Give me a break. Show me somebody else who's doing that shit. Yet he's the only black head coach in the league right now. And we're halfway through this hiring cycle, and not one brother has gotten a job yet. The shit's getting out of control. So Brian Flores is essentially, I think, laying down the gauntlet. He's essentially becoming a martyr. And I don't want that for him. I really don't. Because he's one of the good ones. You know, he's one of the guys that can actually do this at a high level. And, you know, we've heard, rumors out there about Brian Flores and how he's a guy that is a hard ass, and he is a coach that you don't want to work for or with because, he's a guy that is too demanding and he's a hard ass. And you've heard people come out and say, oh, isn't that what you want out of a coach? Isn't that what Bill Belichick is? Isn't that what Nick Saban is? Isn't that what great coaches are? They're very demanding, but they do it in a way that is respectful, that takes everybody else's coaching to the next level, because that's how you get the most out of guys. You push them to the brink. You don't want to push them over the edge, okay, where they have nervous breakdowns, but you want to push them because you know they're capable. And that's what Brian Flores did. And he got that from Bill Belichick, and it got results in Miami. So it's hard for me to wrap my brain around the fact that Leftwich is looking for a job. And look, the hiring cycle is not over. Maybe one of these guys gets an opportunity, but you got Leftwich out there. You got Eric Bieniemy out there. You got Brian Flores out there. These are all guys that we expect to get a job. And right now, we're over in that department. We've lost a couple of brothers, and we haven't put another one back in. David Culley got hosed. They literally paid David Culley to take bullets for 1 year in Houston because they knew they were going to stink. He wasn't getting Deshaun Watson back. He knew that roster wasn't going to win very many games. They got him to be a bulletproof vest. The only thing that I love about David Culley getting out of there is that man is going to walk away $21 million richer for 1 year of service. I'm not mad at that at all. Get your bread. Because the one thing about being a head coach in this league is if you want to fire me early, you still got to pay me. So if you want to get rid of me after 1 year, that's your prerogative. I still want my money. So Culley's still going to walk away with $22 million for 1 year service. I feel good about that for him, but I don't like the fact that David Culley coached his ass off this year, and the Texans said, okay, that was cute. Thank you for your service. You did exactly what we wanted you to do, which was take these bullets, and now you can go. That's bullshit, you know. And then they give you these stupid-ass ultimatums that they know are going to force you to quit. Like, hey, if you want to stay, you got to get rid of your offensive coordinator. Or, hey, you want to stay, you got to get rid of your No, I'm not getting rid of my guys. I'm not getting rid we were here 1 year. Give me another year before you start making me get rid of this guy and that guy. So, I mean, at the end of the day, the NFL has a problem. They have a problem. There aren't enough people of color in positions of power. I love what the Vikings just did. I love what the Browns did a couple of years ago, getting more, Chris Greer in Miami, another brother in a position of power as a GM. I love seeing that. We need more of it, but it needs to trickle down. It's getting to the point now where we're starting to see more, people of color at positions of power in the front office. That's great. And I think some of that is a narrative that's being pushed. Some of it is progressive thinking. Some of it is, hey, we need to get more people of color in these front offices. But it needs to trickle down. It needs to trickle down to the head coach. It needs to trickle down to offensive and defensive coordinators. Okay. There needs to be more of a presence there. I mean, it's getting out of control. We're going back to college and getting retreads like Jim Harbaugh, and he's going to potentially get the job in Minnesota. We're looking for guys outside of the box to come in here and take jobs. And we got candidates that are sitting here ready, willing, and able to help these teams. And for some reason, they're not getting their name called. And again, I don't have all the answers. And I'm not saying just hire a guy just off of the strength of being black. That's not what I'm saying. If the guy's a worthy candidate and all things are equal, you should give an opportunity to a guy that deserves it, like Eric Bieniemy. You know what I'm saying? Like Byron Leftwich, who's put in work, who's won a Super Bowl. These are two coordinators that help coach teams to Super Bowls, yet they can't get work. That fascinates me. It truly does. I'm baffled by it, Yet Sean McVay goes to a Super Bowl, and anybody that's connected to Sean McVay gets a job. That is mind-boggling. There was a time when the only reason we had coaches, the only reason that number got up to as high as it did is because there were black coaches in the league making sure that other black coaches were being groomed, i.e. Dennis Green. He spawned Tony Dungy. Okay. Tony Dungy was with Bill Cowher, and, Dennis Green made sure that guys like Tony Dungy got work so that they could be the next in line. And then Dungy paid it forward and said, hey, Mike Tomlin and company, you guys, and Raheem Morris, you guys are going to get jobs. And I'm going to make sure that you guys are in a position to get work. We don't have enough brothers in positions to help do that anymore. So now you're seeing that number dwindle. Flores also talked about a text message from Bill Belichick, and this is at the heart of his lawsuit. So let's take a look. I don't know if you guys had a chance to see the text message chain between Brian Flores and Bill Belichick. There are a lot of theories as to what happened here. My wife had a theory. I've got my own theory. I'll share that with you after we take a look at these text messages. Let's read what Brian Flores was sent from Bill Belichick, and then we'll discuss thereafter. Let's take a look. So this is the text message that Brian Flores, or the text messages that Brian Flores received from Bill Belichick. So I'm not an iPhone user. I can't stand iPhones. They're the devil. Okay. I feel like Bobby Boucher's mother when I start talking about iPhones. When somebody brings up the iPhone, I'm like, you know what iPhones are? They're the devil. Okay. If you got an iPhone, we can't be friends. Anyway, I digress. In blue, all right, is Brian Flores. In gray is Bill Belichick. Okay. Just in case you don't have an iPhone. I don't, but I know what it means. So Bill Belichick says, sounds like you have landed. Congrats. To which Brian Flores responds, did you hear something that I didn't hear? He's like, okay, are you talking to the right guy? He's starting to get a sense that I don't know if you're talking to the right guy. He says, Giants, right? Like Belichick's like Giants, right? Like that's where you're heading, right? He's like, yeah. Flores responds, yeah, I interview on Thursday. I think I have a shot at it. And remember, Brian Flores is from New York. He went to school in New York. There was a rumor out there circulating that he and Deshaun Watson were looking to try to land in New York. So it'd be nice. I think Flores would feel like it'd be nice to go home. Anyway, he says, got it. That's Belichick. I hear from Buffalo and New York that you're their guy. Hope it works out if you want it to. So right there, that's when Flores really starts to get a sense. Okay, he doesn't know he's talking to me. He thinks he's talking to somebody else. And it's not hard to figure out because he said Buffalo and the Giants. So why would you be talking to Buffalo? Why would you be getting innuendos from Buffalo unless you're talking about another Brian? So my wife's theory on this was that Belichick sent it on purpose. First of all, Belichick's not woke. So Belichick isn't sending this text message to Brian Flores intentionally so that he can see that he's being hosed and only being used as a puppet for the Rooney Rule so that they can go ahead and hire Brian Daboll. That's not Belichick's motive here. She was thinking that, and she said that somebody else said that, and she was like, oh, maybe Belichick. No, Belichick's not woke like that, okay? There's no third eye that exists with Bill Belichick. So I said what happened was Bill Belichick in his phone has Brian Flores and Brian Daboll right next to each other because their first names are both Brian. And I don't know if Belichick went as far as to be he should. If you're a professional, you should make sure that there's first and last name because, again, Brian is a common name. But I guarantee you those two are right next to each other in his phone. He might know 17 Brians, but it's hard for me to believe that someone's going to squeeze in between D and F with an E last name, like Brian Edwards. There could be a Brian Edwards, but I think he thought he was texting Brian Daboll because he said, I'm hearing from Buffalo and New York that you're their guy. Why would you be hearing from Buffalo? Brian Flores has no connection to Buffalo, which Brian Flores starts to connect the dots. He says, that's definitely what I want. I hope you're right, coach. Thank you. And then he didn't hear from Belichick for a little bit because he's thinking, Belichick's like, wait a minute. Did I just F up here? And then Flores says, well, damn, Bill didn't respond. I think he realizes he effed up. So then Flores says, coach, are you talking to Brian Flores or Brian Daboll? Just making sure. That's when Belichick, you know how when you call somebody and you expect one voice to pick up the phone, but it's somebody else. So let's say you call your homeboy and his daughter, she's 7, picks up the phone. Or let's say his sister that just happens to be at the house with him. She's 27. She picks up the phone. And she goes, hello? And you look at your phone like, okay, I just had to make sure I called Scott. I didn't know if I had the right number or not. When Belichick sees that text message, he looks at his text message chain and he's like, shit, is this Daboll or is this Flores? And he goes through and he says, shit, it's Flores. I meant to send this to Daboll. So then Bill Belichick responds, as you go over here, sorry, I effed this up. Yeah, you most certainly did, buddy. I double checked and I misread the text. I think they are naming Daboll. I'm sorry about that. BB, Bill Belichick. Thanks, Bill. So he didn't misread a damn thing. He just sent it to the wrong person. He effed up. And that's why he said, I just effed this up. Yeah, you did, bud. And what happened is, and this is not uncommon, right? This is not uncommon in the workplace. You know, this isn't just a sports thing. How many times have you known that a job was available and you already knew they had their candidate? Hell, it might have been you. that was the candidate that you knew you were getting the job, they got to go through the motions of interviewing 5 or 6 different people just to make it look like this job is available and that everybody has a fair shot at it. But when a job becomes available, a lot of times, especially in the workplace, in the workforce, a lot of people already know who they've got lined up for that job. As long as they want that job and that opportunity, it's pretty much theirs. They interview them and they say, hey, look, this is your gig. Don't say anything to anybody, but this is your job. If you want it, we're offering it to you. And just keep it under wraps until we announce it. And that's generally how it goes. And so this isn't that dissimilar from that. However, Belichick wasn't supposed to let Brian Flores know that they already had their man in Brian Daboll. And the part that is so frustrating for a guy like Brian Flores is that if they already know Brian Daboll is their head coach, then why do you need to interview me? Right? You don't need to interview me. Pull Patrick Graham out of one of his meetings and say, hey, let me interview you for the job then. If you want to pull this Rooney Rule shit, which their teams are abusing the Rooney Rule now. This was put in place to give guys opportunities. Ron Rivera said today that he interviewed 7 times before finally getting a head coaching job the 8th time around, when he interviewed with Carolina and Jerry Richardson and got the job with the Panthers back in 2011. He had interviewed 7 previous times before getting the job. Not that particular job, but, just interviews as a coordinator. He was a coordinator, linebackers coach in San Diego with the Chargers, and then a defensive coordinator in Chicago for multiple years before finally getting an opportunity. And he said, the first few interviews were very influential. It really helped him in the process of learning how to interview. So there is something to be said about getting the experience, even if it's a bullshit ass interview. But when I've been a head coach before, I don't need your bullshit ass interview. You can save that shit for a guy that's never interviewed, like Jarrett Mayo, like a guy that's coming up Gerard Mayo, that's coming up in the game that needs experience. You want to Rooney Rule somebody? Rooney Rule him. It's bullshit because that's not why they put the Rooney Rule in place. They put it in place to help guys get opportunities to get in the room so that you might be able to wow somebody and say, this dude is impressive. Because I really think that's how Raheem Morris got the job in Tampa Bay. Raheem Morris is a bright guy by all accounts. Raheem Morris is one of the brightest minds in football. How many coaches do you know can coach both sides of the football? Raheem Morris has been a running backs coach. He's been a wide receivers coach. He's been a defensive coordinator. He's been an offensive coordinator. This guy's done this in 1 year. He was multiple coaches on both sides. He was a defensive backs coach and a running backs coach in the same season. Like, there are not many guys in the league that can do that. Raheem Morris is one of those guys, and players love him, absolutely love him. And I think Raheem Morris got an interview due to the Rooney Rule in Tampa Bay. He wowed them, and that's how he got the job the first time around. And he said, look, I wasn't even ready for the job the first time around, but I think he wowed them. And that's what the essence of the Rooney Rule was, to just get guys in the door. They weren't even getting those opportunities before. Get them in the door and give them an opportunity. Now, the NFL, they're starting to abuse the Rooney Rule. Now, okay, now this is just a hurdle that we got to get over to really hire the guy that we want to hire. So we already know we want to hire Brian Daboll, but we're going to schedule a meeting. First of all, again, don't degrade a guy that's a former coach that got wrongly fired in Miami. Don't call him for your Rooney Rule hire or Rooney Rule interview. Okay, that's a slap in the face. That's disrespectful. Okay, don't do that shit. And to call Brian Flores, who really wants this job, to make him think that he's got an opportunity, all the while already knowing that you've got Brian Daboll locked up, already has that deal essentially signed, sealed, delivered, and you just got to take care of a couple of I's and dot a couple of I's and cross a couple of T's. That's bullshit. And then, Brian Flores said when he went and interviewed in Denver in 2019, I believe it was, he said they were so unprofessional. They were late. And he said they were hammered. Like, really? That's what you think of me? You don't even show up? If you were meeting with Peyton Manning to try to get him to sign a contract to play for the Denver Broncos, would you show up in that manner? If you were trying to get Sean McVay or some hotshot coordinator to come to Denver to be your head coach, would you show up in that manner? How disrespectful is that? Could you imagine if Flores himself had showed up in that manner? Obviously, he wouldn't get the job, but so much shit would be talked about him. It's only coming out now because Flores says, you know what? I've had enough. I've been disrespected too many times, and it's because of the color of my skin. So I'm airing out all the laundry now. I kept it under wraps because it's a good old boys club, and I didn't want to make anybody uncomfortable, and I didn't want to make myself a pariah. But you know what? F that shit. Since y'all want to treat me like that, I'm going to show y'all what it's like. So John Elway ain't shit. Y'all know how I feel about John Elway, okay? John Elway ain't shit. Old horse mouth ain't shit. You know what? Sorry, God. I apologize. That wasn't right. I shouldn't be talking about him like that. That should only stay in my head. But I can't stand John Elway, and I'm not shocked that John Elway showed up in an unprofessional manner to a meeting with Brian Flores. There's a lot here. And the NFL is going to try to sweep this under the rug. I hope Brian Flores takes their ass to the cleaners. They have to settle. You know, here's the thing. Nothing's going to change. You know, and I kind of feel the same way I felt about Colin Kaepernick. Like, you're a martyr. You brought awareness. Nothing's still going to change. And I feel like Brian Flores, unfortunately, he's going to be a martyr. He's not going to get another job, but nothing's going to change. Maybe he does get a job. Maybe. But I don't think anything's going to change. We'll see. But I applaud him for standing up and being willing to take the bullets that are necessary to try to initiate change. I just don't know if it's going to happen or not. Anyway, I digress. Before we move on, I got social media maneuvers. I got in my bag right there. I told you I was going to go off. I'm sorry. And I don't think I said anything crazy out of my mouth. So I think I kept it pretty PC. I think I did a pretty good job. Anyway, let's get to the comment section. I got some super chats, and we'll get to some hashtags, LouieT live. And then we will go to our final segment of the show. So we start with 1/6 Devil Doc. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, 1/6 Devil Doc writes, Lou, at the games, the fans can yell salute and do a salute when the team does something positive. I know about the Mile High salute, but that was 15 plus years ago. The fans can still yell go command. I mean, there's things they can yell, obviously. And look, I don't like when things are artificially manufactured. Okay. I don't like when people try to make like the whole, we can be the Red Wolves, and the defense can be the Wolf Pack, and the stadium could be the Wolf Den. I don't like when people artificially manufacture what things should be called and what things should or shouldn't be. I feel like things that are said or done should happen organically. When they did the Mile High salute, that wasn't something that they orchestrated. That wasn't something they planned. Terrell Davis scored a touchdown. I think it might have been salute to service month. And he went to the end zone and he did a salute, and it took off from there. And that became the Mile High salute. Like, it should be organic. It shouldn't be something that we're sitting down in our, basements or at our houses or at our jobs while we're not doing anything and floating off into space mentally. And we come up with these ideas. We should go to the game and say, go command. No, I mean, some shit should happen in the game, and we should say it once, and then everybody takes to it. And the next thing you know, that's the thing we're chanting at the games. So I don't want to, hey, we should all yell salute at the game. Like, I don't want to make, and I'm not trying to rag on you in particular. I just don't want whatever happens, whatever comes of this, I don't want it to be something artificially manufactured. I want it to be organic. I want it to be something that just happens. Like, we want Dallas. Every time we do it now, it's artificially manufactured. When they said we want Dallas back in 1983, that was real, raw emotion that just happened organically. When the seat cushion game happened in the 1991 playoffs versus the Falcons, that happened organically. No one just planned, like, after I throw my seat cushion, we all throw our seat cushions. That's how legends are created. Not when people orchestrate it and force it. Let it happen. So I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what should be said or what we should do at games. Let it happen organically. That's how I feel. We'll see. Thank you for the super chat. 1/6 Devil Doc. F. Altus, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, I'm sad for Flores. He's an extremely talented defensive mind with an apparent eye for the quarterback position. That is basically the dream for a franchise. It's a shame that I'm not saying he's being blackballed. I don't think that's what's happening here like it did with Colin Kaepernick. I think that may ultimately be what happens now that he's suing the league. But it's a shame that this man turned a Dolphins franchise that was bottoming out. They were terrible, okay? And they were going in the wrong direction. He turns them around, makes them a viable franchise, makes them a franchise that you would want to go to and coach, you know, and you would want to go to and play, because he established a culture there, one that exuded winning. He's one of the few Belichick guys that was able to leave New England and actually take that Belichick blueprint and make it work somewhere else. Many have tried. Most have failed. Few have succeeded. He was one of the few. And unfortunately, Stephen Ross, the owner of the Dolphins, that wasn't good enough for him. And I get it. There was a little bit of a difference in opinions on Tua and that situation. Okay, figure it out. Figure it out. But the fact that this man, it seems like this hiring cycle, he's not going to get a gig. And I didn't want him to take the Texans job. But you know what was interesting? And I thought about this. Me and my wife had this conversation. What if the Texans hired Brian Flores? You know, the whole Patriot connection. They've got their GM there from New England. And Flores is a New England guy, obviously coming from the Belichick tree. What if he went there? And what if he could get Deshaun Watson to come back to Houston? I don't even know if that was ever in play. I don't know if the Texans were thinking that, hey, we think Flores has a relationship with, you know, Deshaun Watson. And I wonder, because it was only after that interview where he said, you know what, this, okay? I wonder in that interview if they'd let off with, so Brian, we really love what you did for the Dolphins. We think you're a really talented coach. We heard that you've been in communication with Deshaun. Is there any update on that? Have you guys actually been in communication? He's like, yeah, we've talked a little bit this offseason about what it'd be like if we could, team up somewhere. And they said, oh, okay, interesting. So about that, you think you could get Deshaun to come back here if we gave you the job? And he's probably like, are you shitting me? Is that the only reason you had me here on this interview, was to see if I could get Deshaun Watson to walk back in the building? I wonder if they did that. Me and my wife had that conversation about whether they asked him about Deshaun Watson, or if that was even in play. Like, were they thinking maybe he could be the key to getting Deshaun Watson back in Houston? I don't know. We were just throwing, shit at the wall and seeing if it stuck. But anyway, I digress. Flores is a talented coach. He's a hard ass, but you need hard ass coaches to get the best out of players and coaches respectively. And he did that in Miami. He got rid of all the guys that didn't want to buy in. He brought in guys that were hard-nosed, tough workers that wanted to work for one common goal. And I also think now, looking back on it, because there were some weird things that transpired in Miami over the last 2 years while he was there. I'm thinking now that the brass, the upper management, forced Brian Flores to bench Ryan Fitzpatrick in favor of Tua Tagovailoa. Like, think about it. Tua is on the bench. The Dolphins started out rough. They then rattled off like 3 out of 4. They get to 3-3 at the bye week. They trounce San Francisco going into their bye week. Fitzpatrick goes apeshit on the 49ers in the first half of that game. They destroy them. They go into their bye week, and magically after the bye, and we all praised and lauded the Dolphins for starting Tua in that position. But now, thinking about it, going back, Flores probably wanted Fitzpatrick to start. And it's probably Dolphins upper management that said, no, put Tua in. Let's find out what this kid can do. And Flores is like, he stinks. I don't buy that. I don't think Tua stinks. But Flores clearly didn't believe in Tua. And I don't blame him, especially when he had Fitzpatrick. Now, last year, there was really no other option. Jacoby Brissett stinks. He's a backup. Call it what it is. Fitzpatrick is a backup, but he's a high-level backup playing, and at times he plays like a high-level starter. You just don't know which one you're going to get. And when he was with Miami, he's playing like a high-level starter in this league. And I think Flores wanted to go with Fitzpatrick. And every time he decided, I want to go with Fitzpatrick, there was pushback from upper management that said, no, you got to put Tua back in there. It all makes sense now, It really does. I think he really wanted to just start Fitzpatrick the entire time. They forced Josh Rosen on him, I think, at one point. Then, they wanted to lose games, and they forced him to put all these other guys in the game. He really just wanted to play Ryan Fitzpatrick, I think. Anyway, I digress. I'm not sad for Flores. I'm disappointed at the NFL. And I'm disappointed for guys like Flores, like Eric Bieniemy, like Byron Leftwich, who deserves an opportunity, but for whatever reason can't get one. Like Aaron Glenn, who's been rumored for years. It's amazing. You get guys that are hot 1 minute, and then the next minute they fall off of a damn cliff, and we don't hear their names anymore. Do you remember Dallas was good defensively? I'm going to try to find his name. I can't think of his. I don't even know where he is right now. Former Dallas Cowboys defensive. I want to say he was the D-line coach. Maybe he was the linebackers coach. Oh, shucks. I hope something comes of it. I can't think of his name. It was a brother though, right? And I don't know if he was a linebackers coach, he was a D-line coach, whatever he was doing, but he was having success. And I think he was like borderline a coordinator. And I think he was he's a defensive backs coach, I think. Let me try that move. And see if something. Chris Richard, that's his goddamn name. See, is he even? He's in New Orleans right now. Chris Richard was a hot name. I mean, it was piping hot after, I want to say, maybe it was the 18 season. Dallas was good defensively that year. The year they beat the Saints, when the Saints were really good and they held them to 7 points on a Thursday night. And Dallas's defense was humming that year. Leighton Vander Esch was flying around, and you had Byron Jones on one side, and you had somebody else on the other side. They were both playing really good ball, and they were getting after the quarterback, and the defense was just playing out of their minds. And Chris Richard's name like exploded, and I'm like, oh, this guy's going to get a job. Not only did he not get a job, that man fell off the face of the planet. He's now an assistant defensive backs coach. How do you go from almost getting hired to just off of the face of the earth? Again, that's what it's like to be black sometimes in the NFL. You go from, and it's circumstances too, because if your boy gets hired, somebody that you good with, you're gonna always have a job. But what happens if none of your boys are getting hired? And that's one of the problems with the NFL is depends on who you're good with. You got to be cool with the dude that does get the job so that you can get a job, so that you can have an opportunity, because your boy ain't getting hired because there ain't no brothers getting hired for real. So it's rough. It's a rough situation. It's a rough deal. Kyle, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy Kyle writes, Jim Harbaugh, screw it, YOLO. Let's get crazy, Lou. He's reportedly the head guy in the position to get the job in Minnesota. I remember when there was first rumors of Harbaugh looking to get back into the NFL. He's an NFL guy, if you ask me. But remember they beat Ohio State and they got to the playoffs for the first time. And I think a lot of people thought he was just using the NFL as a way to push up the price for Michigan to get a big, fat, juicy extension. I mean, he's already making good money there, but he thought it was using it as leverage. I just think he wants to be in the NFL. I think he's an NFL guy through and through, and I think he wants back in. And he looks at the situation in Minnesota, and he's like, "Hey, they got some talented football players, a good mixture of veterans. I think they're a little heavy on the veteran side, but they got some young players that are talented too. We've talked about this already. They got Dalvin Cook, they got Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen's still relatively young. They got Irv Smith Jr. They got all of these guys that are really talented football players that can help them ascend into the future. They got Danielle Hunter when healthy. So we'll see, what happens. Harbaugh, one thing I know about Harbaugh, he can coach his ass off. It isn't always pretty, and he wears on people quickly. This is why he hasn't stayed anywhere more than like 5 years, whether it's Stanford, San Francisco, Michigan, that like generally he stays somewhere about roughly 5 years, which is why to me, his style of coaching is best suited for college because there's constant turnover. But what he found out at Ohio, his alma mater, is that, man, this shit is not a game. It is definitely high stakes, and there's a lot of pressure. I could win every game, lose to Ohio State the day after Thanksgiving, and shit's done. Season's wrecked. We're out of there, and they want me out of there. So I think he's like, I don't really have that kind of pressure in the NFL, but we'll see. He might be a great fit for you. We'll see what happens. F. Altus, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. F. Altus, who writes, however it ends here, and I don't see how his lawsuit changes the NFL culture. I don't either. He says, this pay to lose scandal really has legs, though, as this moves forward. I think that could have more impact than anything that he's really advocating for, which is, more OCs and DCs of color, more guys, people of color in the front office, and more opportunities, real opportunities for, black head coaches. And those are the things he's really pushing, but it might be the thing that was somewhat of a throwaway line, ancillary, off to the side, that may ultimately get the most attention. And that's the whole pay to lose scenario from the owner. I mean, if you do some probing and some digging, the NFL may decide that they want to take action against Stephen Ross and some of these other owners that have been rumored to have done this if they can find evidence, which I don't think they will, because again, the NFL is for the owners. It's not against them. So I don't think they'll find anything there. But what that will do is it'll start a conversation. Does the NFL need to go to an NBA draft lottery type of situation where tanking doesn't guarantee you the number one overall pick? I still think I ultimately believe that it's almost impossible to tank if you just let coaches coach. And here's the thing. I don't know if say I work in the Jacksonville Jaguars front office. I don't know what's being said behind closed doors in Denver or in Vegas or in Minnesota or in Arizona with the car. I don't know what's being said behind closed doors. All I know is that your team sucks. The players on the field suck. And if I'm a player, I want no parts of that because I got to put film out there that allows me to get more work. If I'm a coach, that's my name. That's my livelihood on the line. I'm not going to put my players in a position to fail so that I can make a couple extra $100,000, because in the long haul, that's actually going to cost me money down the road, not make me money in the short term. And so to me, that short-term gain versus long-term benefit, I don't see how tanking is something that can exist consistently in this league, but it's definitely something that's been out there. And I think that's something that definitely could come to the forefront. I agree. Eli, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy Eli writes, as a Broncos fan, I'm disappointed and disgusted. I always have, first of all, I like the coach you hired. I don't know much about him other than, I don't know much about him, from a personal level. Like, how is this guy? Is he a leader of men? That type of thing. I'm big on hiring guys that are leaders of men. You could be the best X's and O's guy, but if you can't motivate, If you don't know what buttons to press with what players, then you're the wrong guy for the job. Excuse me. That was the problem with Adam Gase. Adam Gase, again, this is the shit I'm talking about. Adam Gase was terrible with the Dolphins. Somehow this guy not only gets fired, he gets a job like the next week coaching the Jets. How is that possible? Yet Brian Flores gets fired and he can't see the light of day. That's what I'm talking about. He's the perfect example of privilege. However, he was the perfect example also of a guy that was X's and O's strong, but not strong particularly in the people person, leader of men category. He was really strange and awkward around people. And you saw it with his team. No one played hard for, Adam Gase. He was a weirdo. And again, I hate to call names. I'm sorry, God. That wasn't nice. He wasn't the kind of guy you want leading your football team. Yet he got 2 jobs in a row. How? I don't know. And I'll never know. I'll never understand that. But from that standpoint, I don't know if Nathaniel Hackett is a leader of men. I always like to know that before I hire a guy. Like, do I trust this guy to rally 53 guys for one common goal? To know that this guy over here can take tough coaching, but this guy over here doesn't respond well to that. You got to put your arm around him and let him know, hey, I need you. Like, does this guy get that? I don't know that about Nathaniel Hackett, but I can tell you that he did a hell of a job with Blake Bortles. And I'm always skeptical with guys that ride the coattails of a future first ballot Hall of Fame quarterback. I'm always skeptical. Give me the guy that got a lot out of a little. And Nathaniel Hackett's done that. So he's done the, hey, I got it on autopilot here with Aaron Rodgers. And then I've done the, hey, I got to make, I got to make lemonade out of these lemons here with Blake Bortles. And he's done that. So we'll see. We'll see what that hire turns into. It might be a really good hire. We'll see. Matthew, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy Matthew writes, I am a Buck first, Washington football team next. Rumor they wanted Byron, but he and others said no unless GM Trent Baalke is gone. He is not respected by most. This is my problem. And I've heard that. We talked about that here on this podcast, this very podcast, that Byron Leftwich, and there have been other guys, because you know what Byron Leftwich is saying? You're not going to get me fired messing around with a dude that I have no control over. I'm not gonna go there, take this job. Trent Baalke, first of all, we all know Trent Baalke was terrible in San Francisco. How the hell Trent Baalke weasels, and this is what I'm talking about. There's probably a minority candidate out there, or just, it doesn't even have to be a minority, just a guy that is better served being a GM that hasn't gotten an opportunity yet. Yet here's Trent Baalke's funky ass getting another opportunity when he was terrible in San Francisco, and people don't respect him, and Jacksonville was a mess. Don't think he wasn't a part of the mess that was Herb. He was a part of that shit too. Okay? And so people are like, look, I'm not going there. You're not going to get me fired. I may not get another shot. And that's why I feel bad for brothers a lot of times, is because they're forced to take the first opportunity that they get, because that opportunity, I just talked about Chris Richard, who was hot that one offseason. The man is a ghost. So if he would have gotten an opportunity, he got to take it, even if it's the worst job in the league. He's got to take it, because he may not get another. David Culley should have said no to the Texans last year, but he couldn't afford to do. Who else is going to hire David Culley? And it was a suicide mission. I said it's a kamikaze mission. I said it when he was hired. I even said it before he took the job. Don't take that job. It's a kamikaze mission. You're being set up to fail. But when you're a brother, you got to take the job, because you may not get another opportunity. Guys like Josh McDaniels, who absolutely tanked the Broncos, was accused and proved that he was cheating in Denver, gets another job in Indianapolis, scorns them after starting to hire his staff. They think they have their guy. He reneges, goes back to New England, and he's still highly sought after. Had a brother done that, he would have been blackballed. Byron Leftwich is essentially saying, y'all not going to get my black ass fired by going there with Trent Baalke's incompetent ass. You continue to take his side while I'm over here fighting in a power struggle. He's got your ear because he's the GM. He's not coaching. He's not with the players all the time. He's in your ear telling you what you want to hear, just like Bruce Allen was in Washington. No coach was ever going to have Daniel Snyder's ear more than Bruce Allen, which is why Bruce Allen was always able to sway Daniel Snyder into doing some F-boy shit. Byron Leftwich was like, if I'm coming to Jacksonville, you got to get rid of his ass. And he's not alone. There have been other candidates. Like, there have been other candidates. I don't want to specifically name names because I don't want to be wrong in that regard. But I know there's been multiple candidates that said, I'm interested, but you got to get rid of Trent Baalke. And I don't blame Byron Leftwich for that. Now, here's the problem with Byron Leftwich. He'll never be hotter than when he had Tom Brady as his quarterback. Brady's now gone. And Kyle Trask could be up next. Kyle Trask, it could be the beginning of the Kyle Trask era. Everyone's like, Brady's gone. What are the Bucs going to do? Maybe the guy is already on their roster in Kyle Trask. Who's to say? I can tell you they built the perfect offensive line for Kyle Trask, who is a statue back there. He's not afraid to run. He's just heavy-footed, okay? But he can throw it. He can throw the football. And maybe Leftwich does a good job with Trask, but it's not as impressive as having Tom Brady. Is he still hot? Do people still want to give Byron Leftwich an opportunity? I don't know. And this is the dilemma you run into. So I commend Byron Leftwich for saying, I'm good. Because it's tough to turn down an opportunity, but you got to do what's best for you because, again, this could be his only shot to be a head coach. So I much rather Eric Bieniemy, same thing. I remember Sean Payton talking about Bill Parcells telling him when he was in Dallas, hey, be selective. You don't have to take the first job that's offered to you. Be selective. Some guys can afford to do that. Some guys can't. He said, be selective. And he turned down several other opportunities like the Miami job, and he waited for the New Orleans job, and he took that one, and it proved to be the right job. We'll see what happens. Anyway, all right. So I'll take a few hashtags, and then we will get to the end of the show. Rich says, I have a proposal for the OT rules, but it will be multiple comments, so stick with me. The winner of the coin toss chooses to have the ball first or second. The team starts at the 50. And they get one play wherever the ball lies. After that play, either team gets the ball. And so hold on. Someone wins the toss. They can either take the ball or give it to the other team. That team then has the ball at the 50-yard line. They get one play wherever the ball lies after that play. Okay, so if they start out at midfield and let's say they get a gain of 3, they get one play from the 47. He says they get one play, and then after wherever the ball lies after they play, either team gets the ball and they have their own play, which is one possession each team at that point. Each team gets 5 possessions, and if you score a touchdown, you win. No more football after that. There are no field goals, and it's played like a kind of a tug of war. I'm confused. I'm sorry. I wish I understood what the hell you just said. I'm still lost, and maybe I'm being slow. I don't get it. I'm sorry. I need help. I got to stay after school for that one. And you've tried to explain this to me before. I just don't get it. I'm trying to, if I sat down and I actually thought about it, I might be able to make sense of it. But because we're pressed for time, I can't wrap my brain around what you're trying to get me to understand here. I get the tug of war, analogy, but it's going back and forth. I get that, but I'm still lost. I still don't really get how it works. Captain Spartan writes, it's for real, and it is BS. And Flores has every right to sue the league. Seriously confusing how Eric Bieniemy doesn't get an opportunity. Jim Caldwell gets fired for winning too much, and lots more. And these are the things that I've talked about. These are the things that people who understand and get it, they see. Like, we don't have to spell this out for you. It's just different. Meanwhile, Adam Gase can lose everywhere he goes and still get opportunity. I mean, I don't understand. Help me. Help me. Let's see. Rich says, the jerseys are fire. I just don't like the black helmet. And I understand that the black helmet leaves a little bit to be desired. But I'm cool with everything pretty much. Let's see if we got any more comments. Rich says, slight issue here. Every time someone curses in the chat, they make us mods review it. And I don't have to do this in Street Scores chat when I mod. It's very annoying. Any way you can fix it? I may be able to check and look into the settings and see if there's something I can do on my end to make it easier on you guys. I will check and see that. Kevin, the PRF, writes, still betting some ESPN anchor will be rushing through his bit highlights and will say something like comms and it will stick. We'll see. Somebody's going to, there's no way to shorten Commanders. They can try. I can't see how it can be done. I don't see how it's done. Sindeko, writes, I tried to give you the inside scoop on Brady last week. It was all over social media. NFC South is the new bottom feeders. You said you thought Brady was officially done. I didn't think it was the case. And we're going to talk about that in garbage time here in a second. Let's see. HHC Lunar says, are the Giants racist? Personally, the Daboll hire makes no sense to me. It does to me. I get why they did it. Are the Giants racist? I could see there's some racial overtones. I don't know them. I don't like to pull that card on the. I just know they're douchebags. I do know that. And when you're a douche, you're not that far away from being racist. You're one hop, skip, and a jump. I can tell you this: the Giants have never had a. They've never had a. What did I see earlier? I think they've never had a. I mean, I don't want to misspeak. I saw something on and I might not be able to find it. I may have liked it. That's the only hope that I have, that I liked it and it's hanging around. I don't think I liked it though, but I want to check and see. Maybe I did like it. No, I didn't like it. It was just an interesting comment that I ran across. And I don't know if it's true or not. I don't like running with shit that I didn't research myself, because people will just be throwing out random shit sometimes and it's not accurate. So I know that the Giants, first of all, I'm not the one to speak. I don't respect the Giants front office, but they at one point they had a black GM for a very long time in Jerry Reese. So I don't know. I can't say. I can't say. I'm not going to try to act as if I know, because I don't. HHC Lunar says, did you see Jimmy G's goodbye? I did not see it, but I did hear that he and his agents are working on a trade out of San Francisco, which we all knew was going to take place. Good luck with that. Good luck with finding a willing partner to trade for you. I don't know what his money situation looks like on his contract and what's remaining. I don't know what the 49ers will be asking in return for him, but I can't imagine someone willing to give up more than a third day pick, a day 3 pick. I can't imagine anyone giving up anything higher than a 5th round, 5th, 6th, 7th, somewhere in there. I could see someone giving up, that for Jimmy G, especially if you're going to have to pay him too. But we'll see what happens. Rich says, just told this to Street Scores. I think the new W logo is way better than the old block W. Since that's our logo, why can't we just be nicknamed the Dubs? I mean, that's what my guy Derek B has been saying for the longest. Just call us the Dubs, right? Again, I don't know. That's a good question. It could just be the Dubs, but that's not the direction that that they've gone in. Derek B says, I don't know if you saw my Twitter DMs, but I tried to tell you about Flores Watson. I didn't see it. I don't know how I missed it. Normally yours show up and I see it and I can acknowledge it. But I didn't see that at all. Unless you're talking about him in the Giants potentially. I did see that from somebody. It might have been you, but I've seen a lot. That's what I saw with the Giants. And Alan Jackson says the Giants have never had a black head coach or a black starting QB until Geno Smith. So the black head coach thing, I guarantee you over half the league has never had a black head coach. So I don't think that's, and I'm not talking about an interim head coach, a guy that's coached for, like Washington technically had Terry Robisky as their head coach. That's bullshit. He coached for like 3 games. Okay. 3 games the year they fired Norv. Okay. Like seriously, stop. I don't think they've ever had a black head coach in Washington. So I think you go around the league and there's a lot of NFL franchises that can say the same. They never had a black head coach. I don't think the Giants are alone. I could be wrong about that. It could only be 5 teams that have never had a black head coach. Because I'm thinking about it in my head and I'm like, well, they had a black head coach and they had a black head coach at one point. I'm pretty sure there are, a couple of franchises. Like I was about to say the Ravens, they didn't have a black head coach, right? Like they have Brian Billick for a while, then they John Harbaugh. I don't think they ever had a black head coach. Now I know Marvin Lewis was their defensive coordinator, but I don't think they've ever had a black head coach. And but a lot of teams have, even if it was obscure and only for a year, just to check off a box. There have been some teams that have had black head coaches, so maybe that is a significant thing. Now the black starting black quarterback thing is interesting. Now, even you have a guy like Eli Manning who doesn't miss games and it's played there for like 15 years or whatever. That shit like that can happen too, But I'm not absolving them of any wrongdoing. Anyway, I digress. Let's see. Mike Lowry, this is a good one. I meant to bring this up too. I'm glad you didn't let me forget. Mike Lowry writes, Josh McCown literally never coached in the NFL or college, but is getting an interview. Now, I've heard this from multiple people, and I believe it to be true. Like Josh McCown is a really likable dude and very smart. Clearly, he's been a backup quarterback for 77 years. And no matter what happens, someone's always calling up Josh McCown and giving him a job. So clearly he's a smart dude, knows football, very likable. And he even said this himself. The only way you hang in the league as long as I have is that people like you. Yeah, you can know the game and people will give you an opportunity because you know the game. But for the most part, people have to like you. And he's a really likable dude. That said, come on, bro. Really? Josh McCown? I'm so over it. That was a good one. I'm glad you brought that up because I totally forgot about that. Could you imagine, a brother coming, like he literally is 1 year removed from playing in the league. I don't know if he had a team this year. I don't think he did. I think that the Eagles playoff game was his last career game in the NFL, and that was in 2020. I don't think he played in 2021, but like you said, no experience whatsoever coaching in the NFL or collegiately or even in high school. and yet he's getting an opportunity. He get at least an interview, which is crazy in itself. You know what? Hines Ward also got an interview. Now, I don't know what Hines Ward has been doing in his spare time. I don't know if he's been coaching college, high school. I saw Hines Ward being mentioned. I'm like, Hines Ward? What? What? So I may have to walk that one back, even though Hines Ward has been retired for like 10 years. But still, now again, I don't know what Hines Ward has been doing in his spare. He could be leading a high school program to, state championships year after year. I don't know what Hines Ward is doing. He could be coaching on someone's staff at Southwest Alabama State. I don't know what he's doing. I just said that's crazy. Yeah. Anyway, I digress. I got some super chats to knock out, and then we'll move on. Big Money Sonny, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Big Money Sonny, writes, damn, Lou, you still putting in that work? Salutes. You know what it is, man. Always grinding over here, man. Always grinding. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, Big Money Sonny. Matthew, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, Matthew, who writes, Byron was good already. And after 2 years with TB12, it seems he would be a good fit for Trevor Lawrence, which I said would be a perfect fit for him. You want an innovative offensive guy that can maximize what Trevor Lawrence, is capable of doing. He says, I hope they don't ruin that kid, Lou. I hope they don't either, because it's very possible that if they don't get it right with this next coach and they got to fire him, let's say 2 years after they hire him, now you're going into his 4th season with his 3rd offensive coordinator and his 3rd head coach. Like, that's how you ruin a young quarterback. So we'll see what happens. I'm right there with you. Hope they don't ruin him, but they're working on it if they don't get this right. This is a big hire for them, which is why I would have just gotten rid of the GM, Trent Baalke, and hired Brian Leftwich, because you can find another Trent Baalke, okay? He's not a mastermind. He hasn't constructed Super Bowl winning teams. You can find another Trent Baalke, but you can't find another Trevor Lawrence. If you destroy this kid, you're in trouble. Big Money Sonny, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, word is Willie Beeman, Malik Willis is ready. My name is Willie Beeman. I keep the ladies creaming and all my fans screaming. Think you can defeat me? You're dreaming. Anyway, let's finish up the show the only way we know how, and that's with garbage time. So Tom Brady officially decided to hang it up. Wow. What a career, man. Easily the greatest to ever do it. I'm okay. Double overtime. Okay. I was wrong, because I was adamant Brady wasn't going to hang it up. I did not think he was going to do it. I thought football was just too important to him. And you know what? I was talking to my wife about this, and I came to the conclusion that I think his wife put pressure on him. Giselle has already made it publicly known that she would like to go back to work. Hard to do when dad is working currently. And I think she was like, look, Tom, you had a hell of a run. Kids are getting older. I want you at home more. And I would like to actually get back into the workforce. I made a sacrifice for this family. I stopped working. Now I want to get back into the workforce. I want to start doing some things. I'm tired of just sitting at home. And I think that pressure was applied to Tom. And he made the choice to choose what was most important. I mean, how many more years of this football thing that you got left anyway? Whereas this could be my lifetime partner. This is my family. This is the rest of my life. So I think he chose the rest of his life over, 4 or 5 more years, because he said, I could play till I'm 50. Easy. Like, it's not a physical thing. And we've all seen that. It's not a physical thing. He's like, if you're not all in 100% and you can't give everything you've got to the game, and you're waffling and you're in or you're out, then you don't need to play. And I've always gave it 100%. And I can't do that right now. So I think this had to do more with family, but what do I know, right? All I know is I said this when Peyton Manning retired. I'm going to say it again here in regards to Tom Brady. you'll never, and I said this when he was in New England, and I meant it then. I'll say it again. Say hello to the bad guy. All right. Or say good night to the bad guy. Because I said you'll never see a bad guy like this again, and you'll never see an evil empire like the Patriots built. I know people don't like the Chiefs, and they don't like Jackson Mahomes, and they don't like Brittany, Patrick's fiance or wife or whatever she is at this point. And I know that that's easy to turn him into a villainous figure, and you're tired of seeing the Chiefs win, so you're willing to root for, but that's not what it was with New England. They just were unlikable. And Brady was spearheading it all. And he was so damn good as well. So even if you hated, you couldn't hate on Brady because he was so damn good. You just wanted to see him lose, but he was too damn good. Then he goes to Tampa, and we're like, was it Belichick or was it Brady? Well, he put that discussion to bed very quickly. Now, I get it. Tampa had a very talented roster. And they were winning like 7-8 games every year with Jameis Winston throwing 30 picks. So it's not like they were terrible. They just needed a guy to come in there and steer them in the right direction. And Tom did that in 1 year and won them a chip. I said this multiple times when Peyton Manning was throwing for 55 touchdowns in a season. I said, you need to acknowledge greatness while it's in front of you, because eventually it's no longer going to be here. And we may never see anything like this again. And we became so jaded by what Peyton Manning and guys like Tom Brady were doing on a weekly basis that we became spoiled, and we started to take them for granted. And I think we did that with Brady. We took him for granted. Oh, he's not going to retire. He's never going anywhere. Yeah, we want him gone, but at the same time, do you really want him gone? The league is better when we've got a bunch of good quarterbacks in it. Now there's one less quarterback. The best ever to do it is no longer playing. There's a chance that Aaron Rodgers, and I don't think he's retiring, but I said the same thing about Brady. He could not be doing this anymore. Do you really want that? Because when you start taking these guys that can really do it at a high level away, and you start replacing them with these guys that can't, the league is in a rough spot. The reason we loved Mahomes versus Allen was because that was quarterbacking at its highest levels. That's when we enjoy football the most. It's cool to watch 13-10. We enjoy those, knockdown, drag out, slobber knockers. Those are fun. But what's even better is when two quarterbacks saddle up and say, hey, I got my 6-shooter, you got yours. We're going to take 5 steps, 5 paces, and we're going to turn around and we're going to just let it fly. And whoever's left standing after I let off shots, you let off shots, is the winner. Maybe both of us will be filled with holes, but we're going to let it fly. Who's got the fastest, quickest gun in the West? That's when in football is its funnest and its most compelling. Brady was one of those dudes that created those types of moments. And no game was ever over. No lead was ever safe. Ask the Atlanta Falcons. We'll never see a guy like Tom Brady again. We'll see others that come along that play at a high level, but you'll never see someone do it for as long as Brady did at as high of a level as Brady did it. The consistency is going to be unmatched, I believe, because Mahomes can shatter every record and do this and do that. He won't end up with 7 Super Bowls. What were we, 7 or 8? I lost count. He's won so many. I think it's 7 Super Bowls. Well, he won't end up with 7 Super Bowls. I don't think he will. Nobody will, I don't think. You know how hard it is to win a Super Bowl? The man won 7. We'll never see a G like Tom Brady again. Never. To the GOAT, I say, job well done. Mission accomplished. You are the best ever. And it was a joy to watch you play. And the league is going to miss Tom Brady more than we ever know. We always root for, we root against the villain, but I've always said the league needs a villain. There was never a better villain in the National Football League than one Thomas F. Brady. Thanks for the memories, bruh. And that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on the 235th installment of the Louie T Network podcast. I've got one more super chat on the way out. We'll take this and we'll go. CGM87, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, Road unis look Falcons. No ties to history at all. Yeah, they weren't looking to tie in to history. They made it seem as if they were looking to do that. The only ties to history that they have are the colors. And like you said, the black has nothing to do with our history, but they were also looking to forge a new path, create a new history. And I think that's what the black colorway represents. So take it for what it's worth. Anyway, that's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T. I thank you all for joining me. I look forward to chopping it up with you guys on Friday. I hope there's a podcast on Friday. There's no games this weekend, so there's no guarantees. I'm like Chico the Barge. Not now, not now. No guarantees. I got no guarantees for you, but I will do my best to try to be present on Friday. Maybe I can do a Flashback Friday podcast. We haven't done one of those in forever. That's a good idea. Maybe, just maybe, I'll do that. We'll see. I don't want to get your hopes up in any event. That's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T. You guys enjoy the rest of your evening, and I look forward to chopping it up with you maybe tomorrow. We'll see. Not on the podcast, but maybe in some other capacity. Wink, wink. We'll see. In any event, you guys take care. Get off the bench, get in the game, and kick it with me, your man, Louie T. Until next time, you guys have a good one. LouieTeeNetwork.